Hello, my name's Roy Johnson and welcome to Acoustic RGJ. This is the follow-up to an earlier video I did looking at three different types of guitar, electric, acoustic and classical, really aimed at those people who are thinking of taking up guitar for the first time or are looking for guitars for their children to play for the first time. This video is going to look specifically at classical guitars, how they're made and any kind of differences between the different types. The classical guitars we know today originated from a small-bodied instrument called the viola, which was a Spanish instrument that was made around about the 15th century. Over the years, as demands of technique and music got greater, and as concert halls got bigger, the guitar itself evolved into what we see today, a wooden-bodied instrument with nylon strings. There's a vast range of classical guitar music, obviously written from the 14th, 15th century, to pieces of music which are contemporary and written currently by composers. Much of the music was written specifically for classical guitar, although an awful lot of it has been transcribed from other instruments such as the cello, for example. So you get an idea of what the classical guitar sounds like. I've recorded just three excerpts of different pieces of music, so have a listen and hope you enjoy what you hear. Okay, so I hope you liked what you heard just then. As you can tell, the sound of the classical guitar is warm sounding, which ideally lends itself to classical music and Spanish music in particular. Not to say that the classical guitar can only be played for classical music. You'll have heard people like Leonard Cohen, Chet Atkins, they both performed and wrote for the classical guitar. And even people like Sting and Dominic Miller wrote a piece called The Shape of Your Heart, a beautiful piece of music. Have a listen if you've not heard it before, but again it gives you the full kind of real classical guitar sound. So I'm just going to talk you through the construction of the guitar, give you an idea about the size and some of the features that you normally find. At the nut, which is this bit at the top of the neck, that is about 54 millimeters. If you take a measurement from the nut down to the saddle, that's also known as the scale length, and that is 650 millimeters. And if you took a measurement from the nuts right down to the body, bottom of the body there, that would be about 815 millimeters. Okay, so the strings, top three strings, which is the E, the B and the G string, are solid nylon, and then we have a D, an A and an E string, which are made of nylon threads which are wrapped in a wire. One of the things you should never do is put steel strings on a classical guitar, because a classical guitar is built much lighter. The string tension from nylon strings is quite light, so the body is made, the top of the guitar is made quite thin, and generally speaking there's no truss rod or any support in the neck. The danger being if you put steel strings on a classical guitar, eventually the whole thing would kind of warp and collapse, and you'd end up with a really high action, i.e. the distance between the strings and the fingerboard would make it impossible to play. Okay, so the top of the guitar, generally speaking there are two types of tone we'd use. This one is made up of cedar. There's a slightly kind of orangey colour, and the one behind me here is made out of spruce, which is a kind of a whiter coloured wood. The difference being really is in the sound they produce. The cedar tends to have a slightly warmer, softer sound. The spruce is a slightly brighter sound. So the body can resonate. As I said, the top of the guitar is quite thin. It still has to have strength. So inside there's a series of struts that kind of go across. It's worth bearing in mind that if you're left-handed, the strutting on the bass side of the guitar, which is here, is slightly heavier than the treble side. So if you're left-handed, you may think about buying a right-handed guitar and swapping the strings over, which kind of works sometimes, but you can alter the kind of the tonal quality a bit of the guitar for that reason. The other thing you have to bear in mind is that you'd also have to swap over the saddle, because the strings on the treble side are nearer the frets, and the bass strings are slightly further away, so you'd have to swap that over. And also the nut would also have to be swapped over, which is a slightly more difficult job because the nut has cuts in it, if you like, to hold the strings in position. It's also shaped slightly, so you wouldn't really be able to just turn the nut round the other way. You'd probably have to have a new nut made. The other thing that's obviously very common on classical guitars is what we call the rosettes. The rosette is the piece around the sound hole, often made of kind of marquetry. Different manufacturers will have their own designs, and often you can tell by the quality of the inlays on the rosette as to how skilled the guitar maker is. The only other difference really between guitars is that some classical guitars now have what is known as a cutaway. Generally speaking, you'd say professional guitar players wouldn't need the cutaway. Basically, the cutaway provides access to these higher frets. Most classical guitar players can reach without a cutaway, but if you've got smaller hands, then you may find something like that useful. The more expensive guitars are made of what are known as solid tone wood. So a tone wood is basically a slice of wood taken from a tree. It will be seasoned over a number of years, dried out, and it will be thinned down to form the back and the sides of the guitar. So in this case I've got it's a cedar top, and we've got rosewood on the back and sides. Good quality tone woods are expensive and they're increasingly hard to come by. So manufacturers are now beginning to make, or have been for some while, making guitars from laminate. So laminate is basically kind of where you take a number of very thin layers of fairly kind of cheap wood and you glue them together, and then you'd put a veneer over the top. So the veneer might well be a very, very thin slice of cedar or some spruce. Generally speaking, the solid tone would sound nicer, they sustain better. But arguably the laminate, it is cheaper and it's kind of maybe a little bit stronger actually. So if you have got young children that are going to be learning the guitar, then laminate is probably the way to go. So one of the things to consider in buying a guitar is really the size. Now, with classical guitars, obviously you can get the full size. You can also get 3/4 and half size guitars. I tend to shy away from half size guitars because the string tension is so low that you tend not to get a very good tone, and also they tend to go out of tune. 3/4 size is a good option for children really of any age, or even for adults that have small hands, for example. So in terms of the dimensions, the scale length of this one, which is from the nut to the saddle, is 582 millimeters. So that's about 65 millimeters shorter than a full-size guitar, and the actual kind of length of the body, if you like, from the bottom of the body to the nut, is 720 millimeters or thereabouts, which is 95 millimeters shorter than a full-size guitar. So yeah, so they're a good option as an alternative. Okay, so I hope you found this video useful, interesting. If you have, please subscribe to my channel and also click the little bell icon, that way I can let you know when I upload other videos. As well as this video specifically on classical guitar, I'll be doing, or will have done, 2 other videos, one on electric guitars and one on steel strung acoustic guitars. So yeah, hope to see you soon. Thanks for listening and bye for now.